Amaka leaned slightly forward. She felt a chill run down her spine. Her mind was no longer thinking clearly. Something inside her whispered, maybe if the crying ends, everything will go back to normal. But just as she leaned further, Amaka! Mary's voice screamed from the doorway. The morning rain in Lagos had a way of waking the city with a loud bang. Danfo buses honked without end, their conductors hanging from the doors, shouting names of destinations, CMS, CMS straight, while hawkers weaved between traffic, balancing trays of gala and chilled sachets of pure water. But inside a small flat in Surulere, the noise of Lagos could not reach Amaka's heavy heart. She sat at the edge of their small bed, her head bowed, hands clasped tightly in prayer. Her lips moved without sound, but her heart screamed. She had said this same prayer every morning for the past 7 years. Dear God, please, just one child. She was 35 now, married to Chike for 7 years. Loved him deeply. But her womb remained empty. In the first year, it was easy to smile. She would tell herself, God's time is the best. Chike would hold her hand and whisper, We're young, Amaka. Don't worry, we've got time. But time moved. Year 2 passed, then 3. By the 4th year, the whispers started. At every family gathering, the same question came like clockwork. It was usually from Chike's aunt, Auntie Ijeoma, her tone soaked in fake pity, her head tilted like she was truly concerned. Amaka, my dear, when are we coming for the naming ceremony now? We want to dance-o. She would chuckle afterward, not waiting for a reply. Then came Chike's mother, Mama Chike, a short, firm woman with peppery words and traditional values rooted deep. From the first day she met Amaka, the woman had scanned her from head to toe like a market woman judging a tuber of yam. One evening, Chike returned from visiting his mother, looking withdrawn. After some silence, he said, She said a man's name is carried by children, not by cooking skills. That I should think of the family line. Amaka felt the sting. She had cooked for the family, cleaned, supported Chike through his career switch, prayed, fasted, done everything a woman was taught to do. But it wasn't enough. Nkechi, Chike's older sister, was even worse. She had 4 children and wore her motherhood like a trophy. Some women are just born with motherly love, she would say loudly, bouncing her baby in her arms. Others, well, they're not just ready. The words always came when Amaka was nearby, but she never talked back. Instead, she would slip away, close the door of her bedroom, bury her face in the pillow, and cry until her head ached. Her tears soaked the fabric every night. Her prayers became more desperate. Chike, in the early years, stood by her. He defended her. He would hush the whispers, tell his mother to stop. But as the years went by, even he began to bend under the pressure. It was after another visit from Mama Chike, one that ended in shouting and slammed doors, that Chike broke. Amaka, what do you want me to do? He shouted, pacing the room. They are already telling me to take another wife. Amaka froze. His voice echoed in the room like thunder. She stared at him, her mouth slightly open, but no words came. Her heart cracked in places she never knew existed. That night, she lay stiffly on her side of the bed. Chike lay on the other side. Neither said a word. Their backs were cold walls between them. The next day, she found herself sweeping without focus, her mind lost. She began asking herself the same question. Is it me? Am I the problem? They visited countless doctors, from private clinics in Victoria Island to a well-known fertility center in Ibadan. They swallowed pills, injected hormones, bathed in bitter herbs. A pastor once asked her to roll on the church floor for 7 Sundays. A native woman in Epe gave her goat blood to rub on her belly. Each month, her hope would rise. Each month, her period would crush it again. Chike stopped going to appointments after the 5th year. He said work was too much. She understood, or at least she tried to. Even when one doctor gently hinted that it may not be you, madam, let's test Oga again, Chike refused. We've done it before. Let's not waste money. In Nigerian homes, it was easier to blame the woman. Then, in the 7th year, something changed. Amaka began to feel strange, tired, her tongue bitter. She couldn't stand the smell of pepper. She threw up twice in one day. She thought it was malaria again. Chike insisted she take a pregnancy test. She waited, trembling. 2 red lines. Her eyes widened. Chike, come and see! He rushed into the bathroom, grabbed the stick from her hand. They stared together. Time stood still. Then he screamed, lifting her off the ground, spinning her around the tiny bathroom. They laughed, they cried, they prayed. That evening, he bought fried rice and chicken. They danced in the parlor. The Lagos traffic didn't matter. The landlord's shouting didn't matter. They were going to be parents. The news spread fast. Mama Chike, now full of smiles, called every morning. Amaka, what will you eat today, Ann? Don't let my grandchild starve-o. Nkechi brought bags of fruit and wrappers. You see, God's time truly is the best, she said, now acting like she had always believed in Amaka. Neighbors who once whispered began to greet her with wide smiles. Mama Ajima, mother of twins, this your skin day shino. For the first time in 7 years, Amaka felt like a real woman. Chike became gentler. He refused to let her carry heavy loads. He would rub her feet in the evenings, cook indomie when she was too tired to stand, and hold her belly while speaking baby words. Everything felt like a dream, but deep down, Amaka carried a secret fear. She had waited too long. What if something went wrong? What if the happiness didn't last? Still, she smiled. She took her prenatal pills. She listened to soft music. She joined the church women's fellowship for pregnant mothers. She even started a baby journal where she wrote letters to her unborn child. My sweet baby, I can't wait to meet you. I hope you'll love amala and ogbono soup like your father. When the 9th month came, the contractions started early on a Saturday morning. She clutched her belly and groaned. Chike was in traffic but rushed home immediately. They got to the hospital just in time. But complications arose. After hours of labor, the doctor made a decision. Madam, we're taking you in for emergency cesarean section. Amaka was wheeled in. She remembered the bright light, the sharp smell of disinfectant, the mask over her face, the cold room, then darkness. When she woke, she heard it, the tiny cry of a baby girl. It's a girl, the nurse said, placing the baby gently on her chest. Congratulations, madam. She blinked at the child. She expected to feel warmth, joy, overwhelming love. But all she felt was emptiness and pain. Her stomach throbbed, the sharp cut of the surgery reminding her that something had been taken from her. The C-section scar burned with every breath, every cough, every laugh. She was a mother now, but she felt more lost than ever before. The sun poured through the window the next morning, but Amaka didn't feel it. She lay on the hospital bed, stiff, her eyes fixed on the ceiling. The baby lay in the transparent hospital crib beside her, bundled in soft pink cloth. Nurses came in and out. You need to try breastfeeding, one of them said gently, placing the baby near her breast. Amaka flinched. The small mouth reached out, searching for milk, but Amaka turned her face to the wall. Later, she whispered. The nurse nodded, assuming she was just tired. But it wasn't tiredness. It was fear, confusion, emptiness, and the pain. Oh, the pain. The cesarean scar throbbed beneath her belly, raw and hot. Every movement reminded her that she had been cut open. Sometimes it itched, other times it burned. At night, she would lift her gown, stare at the line across her body, and weep. She would hit her stomach softly, over and over, whispering, "Why couldn't you do it yourself? Why couldn't you bring her out without help?" When she was discharged and brought home, the flat in Surulere didn't feel like home anymore. The baby cried often, loud, sharp wails that sliced through Amaka's ears like broken glass. She couldn't hold her for long. The moment the baby touched her chest, Amaka felt trapped. Her chest would tighten, her breath would shorten, panic would rise like floodwater. She began avoiding the baby. At night, she would lock herself in the bedroom, leaving the child in her cot in the living room. When Chike came home and asked, "Where's the baby?" she would answer softly, "There." "Why is the door locked, Amaka?" "I just need space." And she truly did. She needed space from the cries, from the fear that she wasn't doing it right, from the pressure to feel joy that never came. But there was no space. Not in this tiny flat. Not in her mind. Mama Chike arrived 3 days after the birth, carrying bags of food and wrappers. Amaka had hoped she was coming to help. But that was not the case. She dropped her bag on the couch and immediately started giving orders. "There's no soup in this house?" she asked, looking around. "You mean to tell me there's no fresh soup for a nursing mother? Amaka, what were you doing before I came?" Amaka blinked at her, too tired to respond. "Please, warm water for me to bathe. I don't use cold water. Also, boil yam. I don't eat rice in the morning." Instead of helping, Mama Chike demanded more. She refused to change diapers, refused to carry the baby at night, but she still shouted when the baby cried. This baby needs attention, Amaka. Why are you acting like a stranger? Don't you know your job? Amaka would hide in the kitchen, clutching the counter for balance, tears falling silently. Sometimes she would rub her scar harshly through her wrapper, as if she could erase the pain, the shame, the failure. Nkechi visited a few days later. She looked at the untouched baby bath and folded clothes still in the corner. You haven't bathed her yourself? She asked, surprised. Amaka didn't answer. Nkechi smirked. When I had my twins, I was cooking soup and pounding yam by day 5. Some women are just naturally strong. Then she turned to Mama Chike and said loudly, She better not spoil this child, oh. These Lagos wives of nowadays, everything is I'm tired. They don't know what real motherhood is. That evening, Chike came back from work, tie loosened, briefcase in hand. He walked into the house and dropped into the armchair. Amaka, what did you cook? She was silent. You didn't cook anything? Not even rice? I was with the baby all day. She cried too much, I couldn't. But my mother is here now, she's helping, isn't she? Amaka laughed softly, a bitter, broken laugh. Helping? She repeated. She hasn't even touched diapers. I still wash plates, still sweep, still cook, and I can barely stand without pain. Chike sighed, rubbing his temples. Work is already stressing me, now this. Amaka felt a cold wind blow between them. He hadn't asked how she felt. He hadn't asked how she was healing. He just wanted food and peace. The next day, Amaka locked herself in the bedroom again. The baby cried loud and long, but she didn't move. She sat in the corner, rocking back and forth, covering her ears. Make it stop, she whispered. She hit her head gently against the wall. Please, make it stop. The sound of crying triggered something deep inside her. Not love, not compassion, but panic, like she was drowning. Mama Chike knocked on the door, annoyed. Amaka, open this door now. What kind of useless behavior is this? No answer. She shouted again. Still, silence. Later that evening, Mary came by. She was the kind neighbor who lived 2 doors away. A nurse. Warm smile, gentle voice. She stepped into the house and noticed the baby wailing in her cot. Where's Amaka? She asked. Inside. She locked the door, Mama Chica said with a frown. She has refused to be a mother. Mary didn't respond. She simply picked up the baby, rocked her, hummed a lullaby. The baby quieted. She knocked softly on the bedroom door. Amaka, it's me, Mary. No response. You're not alone. I'm here. Silence. Please open the door. A few seconds passed. Then the lock clicked. The door opened slightly. Amaka stood there in her wrapper, eyes red, face pale, lips dry. I don't feel anything, she said. Mary reached forward and touched her hand. You don't have to feel anything right now. You just need rest. You need help, and that's okay. Amaka broke into tears. Heavy sobs. Mary stepped in, pulled her into a gentle hug. Mama Chike watched from the hallway, arms folded, her expression tight. So this is the nurse that wants to teach us how to be mothers? She said under her breath. But Mary ignored her. She cleaned the kitchen, helped prepare tea, rocked the baby, tucked Amaka into bed and whispered, one step at a time. That night, Amaka didn't lock the door. She still didn't hold the baby. But she slept, and that was the first step. The sun was out, but the light in the house felt dim. Amaka sat on the sofa, her wrapper loosely tied around her chest. Her eyes were sunken. Her hair, once neatly packed, now looked wild and dry. She hadn't taken a proper bath in 2 days. Sarah's cries echoed through the small flat again. Richie was always crying. Amaka placed her hands over her ears, trying to block the sound. She had done everything, changed her, rocked her, even tried to breastfeed. But nothing worked. The child still screamed, as if her presence alone disturbed her. Mama Chike stormed into the sitting room, fanning herself with the edge of her headscarf. You are still sitting here like this? Have you cooked anything? You want my son to come back from work and meet an empty pot? Amaka didn't answer. She didn't even move. This is what I'm saying, Mama Chike continued, now standing with hands on hips. You cannot even sweep the sitting room, yet you're calling yourself a wife. If you know you didn't want to be a mother, why didn't you tell us before wasting our time? Amaka turned slowly to look at her. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Sarah's cries grew louder from the bedroom. You better go and carry that child, Mama Chike shouted. You're even lucky it's a girl. If it were a boy and you treated him like this, Thunder would have. But Amaka had already stood up and walked toward the bedroom. She picked up Sarah from the bed. The baby was red-faced and trembling from crying. Amaka held her stiffly, not rocking or soothing. She stood in the middle of the room, her eyes blank. She could still feel the sharp pain from her C-section scar beneath her wrapper. It throbbed with each movement, especially when she bent over or tried to lie on her side. The skin there was tight, inflamed. Sometimes she pressed her palm hard into it. Sometimes she hit it, not to hurt herself, but to feel something. "Why won't you stop crying?" she whispered. She rocked the baby once, twice. The crying didn't stop. Her head was pounding. The room felt like it was spinning. She looked around. Her eyes fell on the bathroom door. She walked. One slow step after another. The baby's wails pierced her ears like needles. Her feet felt heavy, like she was dragging her own shadow behind her. She stepped into the bathroom and turned on the light. There it was, the toilet, white, quiet, still. She stood over it. She held Sarah in front of her, her hands trembling. "Please, stop crying," she said again. But Sarah didn't stop. Amaka leaned slightly forward. She felt a chill run down her spine. Her mind was no longer thinking clearly. Something inside her whispered, maybe if the crying ends, everything will go back to normal. But just as she leaned further, "Amaka!" Mary's voice screamed from the doorway. In the same second, strong arms grabbed the baby from her hands. Amaka froze. Mary was panting, holding Sarah tightly against her chest. The baby still cried, but Mary rocked her gently, stepping back from the bathroom. "Amaka, what were you doing?" she asked, voice shaking. Amaka stared at her. Tears ran down her face. She fell to her knees on the bathroom floor. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted her to stop. I'm tired." Mary didn't speak immediately. She carried the baby to the sitting room, placed her gently in a blanket on the sofa, and came back to lift Amaka off the bathroom floor. "Come, we're going to the hospital." At the hospital, Chike arrived within the hour. His face was filled with worry and confusion. Amaka sat on the hospital bed, covered with a white sheet. Her eyes were red, her voice hoarse. The doctor explained it clearly. "Your wife is not mad. She's not evil. She's not pretending. She has postpartum depression, a real medical condition. She needs rest, support, and therapy." Chika's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "I didn't know. I just thought she was tired. I've been busy with work." Mary, sitting nearby, shook her head slowly. "You were too busy to see your wife breaking." Mama Chike stood in the corner, arms folded, lips tight. The doctor turned to her. "And you, madam, the next time you call a woman a witch for not breastfeeding, ask yourself if you've ever helped her clean the house, cook a meal, or hold the baby for 1 hour." For the first time, Mama Chike said nothing, just silence. Later that night, as Sarah slept in the nursery the hospital provided, Amaka stared at the ceiling. Chike sat beside her, holding her hand. There was guilt in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Amaka didn't answer, but she didn't pull her hand away. That was enough for now. The hospital room was quiet, except for the soft hum of the ceiling fan. Amaka sat by the window in a plain hospital gown, watching the sky turn orange. For the first time in a long while, her mind was not racing. It was not fully calm either, but the storm had paused, like a breath held in the middle of crying. Sarah was in the nursery, being cared for by nurses. Amaka was alone, but not in a painful way. This time, she had space to breathe. Therapy started slowly. The hospital's mental health team assigned her a kind female therapist named Dr. Ifeoma. She didn't wear a white coat or carry a stethoscope, just a notepad and a warm smile. Their first conversation was simple. "How are you feeling today, Amaka?" Amaka looked at the floor, then at her hands, then at the wall. "I don't know." "That's okay," Dr. Ifeoma said. "We'll take it 1 day at a time." 1 day became 2, 2 became 5. By the second week, Amaka found herself talking, at first in small sentences, then in stories, then in tears. She talked about the pain of her C-section scar, how it felt like a reminder that her body had failed. She talked about how Sarah's cries felt like knives in her brain, how she had locked herself in the room because she was scared she might hurt the baby or herself. She talked about Mama Chike's words, the insults, the pressure, the lack of rest, and finally she talked about the toilet. The moment, the scariest part of her life. Dr. Ifeoma didn't judge her. She only nodded and wrote something down. "Amaka," she said, "you were drowning, and no one gave you a life jacket, but you're here now, and you're healing." Meanwhile, outside the hospital, things were changing. Mary had moved into the flat to help temporarily. She kept the place clean, cooked food, bathed Sarah, and gently scolded Chike whenever he slipped into his old ways. "You can't just buy diapers and think you've done your duty," she told him one evening. "Your wife almost broke. She nearly did the unthinkable. If you want her back, truly back, you have to become present. You must share the weight." Chike listened. He started leaving work earlier. He stopped scrolling through his phone while holding Sarah. He asked questions. He read articles about postpartum depression. He called Mary for guidance when he didn't understand, and slowly, painfully, he began to show up. Even Mama Chike changed. At first, she refused to visit the hospital. "All this therapy talk, I don't believe in it. In our time, we just endured." But one Sunday afternoon, she surprised everyone by appearing at the hospital with a flask of hot okra soup. She sat at the edge of Amaka's bed and cleared her throat. "I don't understand all this English, but I didn't know you were suffering like that. I thought you were just lazy. I'm sorry. It wasn't perfect, but it was something." Amaka nodded. That was all she had the strength for. On the third week, Amaka held Sarah again. This time, she didn't feel fear in her chest. She didn't feel like running. The baby looked up at her with wide, curious eyes. Her small hands reached out and touched Amaka's lips. Amaka smiled, a real one, and whispered, "Hi." Sarah blinked, and then she smiled back. Later that night, as the nurses dimmed the lights, Chike sat by Amaka's bed. Sarah lay asleep in the crib beside them. "I didn't know it could get that bad," he said softly. "I didn't know how to help you." Amaka leaned her head on his shoulder. "Now you know." Recovery wasn't fast or easy, but it had begun. The fog in Amaka's mind had started to lift. The pain was still there, but so was hope. And sometimes that was enough. 6 months had passed. The rainy season was slowly giving way to brighter skies in Lagos, and with it, a gentler breeze blew through the small flat in Surulere. Everything in the house was still the same. The squeaky front door, the tiny kitchen, the mosquito net with holes they always forgot to fix. But Amaka had changed. So had Sarah. The baby had grown chubby cheeks and soft giggles that filled the air like music. She had started trying to sit up, her tiny hands grabbing anything within reach. Amaka's blouse, Chike's glasses, the nanny's earrings. Every morning, Amaka bathed her now. No more hiding, no more flinching. She would play soft music, wrap Sarah in a towel afterward, and sing to her in low, warm tones. "My baby girl, Mummy loves you so much." It didn't always feel natural. Some days still brought that heavy fog. Some nights the scar still itched and burned and reminded her of everything she went through. But she no longer feared those moments. She faced them, owned them, fought them. One Sunday, as she got ready for church, she stood in front of the mirror, her white lace blouse already stained with Sarah's milk. Her wrapper was loose, her eyes a little puffy. But when she looked at her reflection, she didn't feel disgust. She saw a mother, a survivor. "You're still here," she whispered to the woman in the mirror, "and that's enough." Chike walked in and stopped at the door, watching her. "You're glowing." She chuckled, looking at the milk stain. "I think it's the breast milk on my blouse." "No," he smiled. "It's you." He walked over and placed a soft kiss on her cheek, then carried Sarah, who was already trying to chew on her fingers. "Let's go, ladies. Pastor won't wait for us." At church, the Women's Fellowship called Amaka to share her testimony. The hall was full, the fans humming above them. She stood at the front, holding Sarah, her voice soft but steady. "I thought motherhood would come naturally, but for me, it didn't. I broke after childbirth. I was angry, afraid, empty, but I got help, and I'm standing here to say postpartum depression is real, and it doesn't make you a bad mother. It makes you human." Some women nodded. Some wept quietly. One woman in the second row covered her face, tears spilling through her fingers. Amaka saw her. After the service, that woman walked up to her and held her tightly. "I thought I was the only one," she whispered. "I haven't told anyone, not even my husband." "You're not alone," Amaka said. "We're many. We just need to speak." Back home, Mama Chike surprised her by preparing dinner. Proper dinner, of onugbu and pounded yam. She didn't say anything as she served it, just grumbled about how soft the yam was. But her hands were gentle as she handed Amaka her plate. Later that night, Amaka sat on the balcony with Mary, watching the sky again, this time with Sarah sleeping in her arms, snuggled against her chest. "I still feel scared sometimes," Amaka confessed. Mary nodded. Good mothers get scared. Even the strong ones? Especially the strong ones. They both smiled. Then Amaka looked down at Sarah. Her small fingers, her peaceful face, the tiny rise and fall of her chest. She's my miracle, even if I didn't see it at first. She's yours, Mary said, and so is this new life. The stars came out one by one, blinking gently over Surulere. The city still buzzed below, horns honking, people shouting, generators humming, but up on that small balcony, peace sat quietly in a mother's arms. Amaka hummed softly, rocking Sarah as her eyes fluttered shut. She no longer feared the night. She had found her way through the darkness, and she knew, whatever came next, she would rise again. This is the end of Amaka's story. Postpartum depression is not a curse or a failure. It is an illness, one that needs compassion, support, and treatment. Motherhood does not come the same way for every woman, and that is okay. Love is not always instant, but it can grow. Healing is not always loud, but it is possible. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who will love it, and subscribe for more amazing African tales. Your support keeps these stories alive. Until next time, stay inspired, stay blessed, and keep the fire of our stories burning.